Alright, at the beginning of this video, the left libertarian makes an error in saying that you don't own yourself, you are yourself. And definitionally, you are yourself, but you also own yourself. For example, I can cut off my toe and sell it. I can also sell various organs because I own them, according to the relevant intersubjective criteria of ownership. In fact, I could, sell my entire body. I could sell my brain, my nervous system. I could shoot myself, and I could find guys on the black market who'd be willing to buy all that stuff, right? So yes, you do own yourself. You can sell yourself. You can sell all the physical stuff that makes you you. Now, the left libertarian then makes the tired old semantic point, close quote, about selling labor. He says, you don't sell your labor, you are your labor. Right? When you go to work, you don't stay in bed and sleep while your laborer walks away and does. No, you yourself do it. You're selling yourself. Now, and this is just a semantic point, even if it is one, but even as a semantic point, this fails. Let's say you're a plumber. A plumber sells his services. How? Well, he works. And then there are services. Services are rendered. Certainly, we would say that services exist, even if it's not something that can physically be pointed to. But the services do exist. So yes, you can render a service and then sell it. Or more commonly, you get paid and then render a service. Or whatever. So yes, you can sell your labor, right? You labor, right? You've created labor, right? It's not something that can be pointed to, but it is something that has been done, right? And then you are paid for that labor, right? You're not paid for your body, right? Nobody's going to pay you to just stand there. Well, here's my body, right? Unless they take your organs and do stuff with it. No, you're selling your labor. But then the left libertarian makes a vague and emotional point about how people are treated as commodities, and his video is just peppered with vague emotional appeals that would take forever to address, so let's just deal with the main video. He talks about mass production and how mass production is dehumanizing. He cites Frederick Taylor's scientific management as making work crappier. Individuals, instead of doing a variety of tasks, which I would call like the cottage industry mode of production, were specialized on a factory line doing one thing over and over again. This produced more stuff, but people prefer a variety of tasks to monotony. Right? So produce more stuff, but the work is less pleasant. Maybe not even pleasant is a good word, but the work is worse. Taylor's firm didn't pay any higher nominal wages to the workers. And Taylor himself made a big profit. Now, what profits do is they attract capitalists to start competing firms, which then bid down the profit, right? Which then causes more firms to emulate the thing that was profitable. And what is profitable is what provided value to society, because profits represent the value that the capitalist provides to society minus consumer surplus. And I'm not going to define what consumer surplus is. You can go look that up. So, and of course, this is why it's important not to have any quote regulations close quote, which make it difficult to start a competing firm, because competing firms come online which bid down profits, right, and make things cheaper. So you don't want to have a whole lot of regulations that make it difficult to compete with profitable firms. Now, from the point of view of the workers in Taylor's firm, this sucks because their nominal wages are the same, and there has been virtually no increase in their real wages. There has been a slight increase because that factory that they're working at produces more stuff, and thus each dollar they get paid is worth just a little bit more because that one factory produces more, right? And so there's more stuff in society, and so each dollar is worth more, but it's a tiny amount because it's just one factory, and so it's hardly noticeable to each worker at Taylor's factory. But if all firms produce this way, work this way, more stuff gets produced economy-wide, right? And this is what happens, right? Mass production saw people work less hours, have more stuff, and live longer. And I don't think even the left libertarian would deny this much. So on one hand, mass production is more productive, but it's harder on the workers. Workers would prefer to engage in a variety of tasks. But let's assume capitalists don't care about the workers at all. I think generally capitalists do care a little bit about the workers, but let's assume they don't care at all. Let's just assume that. Work that less people are willing to do, or less people are willing and able to do, gets paid more than work that people aren't willing and able to do. If the work sucks, you have to pay them more to do that because they could go work somewhere else that doesn't suck as much. For example, the fishing in the Bering Strait during the fishing season is really short, but you get paid a lot for a short period of time because very few people want to work in such a dangerous and hard environment, which is fishing in that area. Maybe you can see where this is going. Each worker himself will choose if he wants to work in a more mass production environment and get paid more, or work in a more cottage industry environment and get paid less. Let's say that in 100 years each worker is twice as productive as he is today. He could work as much and have twice as much stuff, or only work 4 hours a day and have more time to do other things, right, and have as much stuff as he has today, or work 8 hours a day in a less productive but more humanizing cottage industry setting. He could choose to work 8 hours a day and be as productive as he would be in 4 hours a day mass production in a more cottage industry setting. Right? As production rises, or as productivity rises, each worker becomes more willing to sacrifice wages to improve their work experience. And that could just mean working less and spending more time self-actualizing, or working in at a more variety of tasks in a more humanizing way. But the way this is done is to raise productivity. And the way you raise productivity is to build capital. Now, unfortunately, barriers to entry make it difficult to do more cottage industry work. For example, if you wanted to start your own grocery store, what state agency would you go to get the proper licenses? Do you even know where to start? Could you just walk into an abandoned building? Well, you could on a free market. You could just walk into an abandoned building and do what needs to be done, but not today. And so the state prevents the formation of new businesses. Thus, the existing businesses have more power over their employees and can treat them like crap because their employees can't start new businesses. They have no other option, right? Because the state prevents them from doing that. But the world is not worse because of mass production per se. You can point to a lot of problems caused by the state, but I've said my piece on that. Now let me address a few dumb points the left libertarian makes. Throughout the video, he associated very vaguely mass production, the state education camps, and government in general. Now, the current U.S. education camp system are based on the Prussian model, which was done for military purposes. And this created a population in Prussia that was compliant to the state. And as a result, Prussia was a great military power for some time until the other European states started to do the same thing. So no, the U.S. education system is not modeled off of mass production. It's modeled off of a martial state. The left libertarian then said that the current firms are worse than any totalitarian dictatorship, and this is just emotive hyperbole. North Korea, Cambodia, right? People in the Soviet Union, by their own actions, supported a statist society that is more similar to the United States over direct central planning that was going on in the Soviet Union. I'm not saying I like the current situation, but it is better than totalitarian states that have existed. And McDonald's doesn't kill you if you leave land that they claim. Throughout feudal Europe, people were tied to a plot of land and had to work for their lord, and they were property of their lord. And these lords, vehemently opposed the factories because they knew correctly that the factories would pose a threat to their power, right? And so the king and the churches all opposed the factories because they knew correctly that it would undermine their power, and it eventually did. And slavery in the U.S. was similar to feudal Europe, right? You had people tied to land who worked for a lord, or it was called a master or owner or whatever they were called, the slave owners. Now the states which had slavery, which was just like feudalism, would conscript people to catch runaway slaves, and so the slave owners themselves couldn't afford it themselves, so it required a state to enforce slavery. Now, not even the Fordvilles would shoot you if you tried to leave and work somewhere else. Okay, so you can say a lot of crappiness abounds about mass production, and abuse can be great because of the state preventing the formation of alternative businesses. But the problem is not mass production, and totalitarian states are worse than even this crony capitalist society that exists in the United States today.